Welcome back. Today we are going to look at decimal fractions and place value. For some of you, this is going to be more of a review of what we have been doing the last couple days. So let's get started. Consider the place value of the digits. So you have 4183, 4,183. How many hundreds are in 1,000? Well, there are 10 hundreds in 1,000. How many tens are in 100? Well, there's 10. How many ones are there in a 10? Well, they're all 10. So this is why our numbers are so lovely. They're so easy to figure out. All of these here, you're just really just multiplying by 10 to figure out. You're multiplying the hundreds by 10 to get to 1,000. You're multiplying 10 by 10 to get to 100. And you're multiplying 10 by 1 to have 10. Okay. And pretty much what I just said, 1,000 is 10 times as many as 100. 100 is 10 times as many as 1,000. And 10 is 10 times as many as 1. So this chart may help you. We go to the left in this situation when we are multiplying. If we had to make the number smaller, we would go to the right, and instead of multiply by 10, we would divide by 10. Fractions with the denominator 10, 100, or 1,000, and so on are called decimal fractions. Mathematicians call them decimal fractions because they convert to decimal numbers easily. Determine which of the fractions shown are decimal fractions. So let's highlight some important information here. It says they have to have a denominator of 10, 100, or 1,000. So which one of these examples here has that denominator? So let's see. Well, here's a decimal fraction. So let's mark it. Let's use the same system as our traffic lights. Green means go. In this case, it means yes. 100, yes. 9, no. 50, it's technically not, but this could be an easy one to figure out. Same with the next one. 2 is not really a decimal fraction, but it's pretty simple to figure out. 200, not considered a decimal fraction either. But again, these ones are easy once you get the hang of figuring out fractions. Okay, so there's a lot here. Now the last two, obviously this is 1,000. I would put this as a decimal fraction as well, 1 billion, because 1 divided by a billion, it's going to give you a 0.00, very large number with a lot of zeros. Actually, very small number because it's very small. But anyways, the more practice you get, the more that this becomes easy, this becomes easy, this becomes easy, and on some level, this becomes easy as well. So let's look at this one. Exercises. Is the fraction a decimal fraction? Well, the first one is definitely not, because when you do 2 divided by 3 on a calculator, you're going to get an answer that reads this. And then you'll have like either a 7 at the end, or you're going to have like a little line over the 6. That just simply means that the number repeats itself forever and ever. Let's look at 11 over 12. 11 over 100. This is definitely a decimal fraction. When you do 11 divided by 100, it gives you 0.11. Is 999 over 1,000 a decimal fraction? Yes, it is. When you do 999, you divide that by 1,000, your answer is 0.999. So very, very close to 1. It's very, very close. 400 divided by 500 is not a decimal fraction, but when you do 400 divided by 500, your answer is going to be 0.8, which is the same answer that you get when you do 4 divided by 5. So they're equivalent, because 400 over 500 is equivalent to 4 over 5. Okay. Let's look at the next one, E. 6 divided by 10 is a decimal fraction. 6 divided by 10 equals 0.6. So 6 over 10 or 6 divided by 10, it's the exact same thing. And for this one here, it's not a decimal fraction, because 1 divided by 40, off the top of my head, it's probably about 0.2 something. close to something. I don't know off the top of my head. Now this last one. This one here is not a decimal fraction, but it's really, really close. But let's just say no, and let's not even try to divide it, because no one's ever going to ask you to divide this number. 1 is 10 times as many as a tenth. A tenth is 10 times as many as a hundredth. A hundredth is 10 times as many as a thousandth. This is the same pattern. So before we were only looking at these numbers over here. And now we're adding more. So basically in this unit, what we've been looking at is numbers thousands and thousandths. Okay, where does the decimal point go in this diagram? You guessed it. It goes right here between the ones and the tenths. Okay, good guess. Thank you. Let's move on. Identify the place value and value of the underlined digit. Write the value as a number and in words. Well, let's see what we're going to do here. Well, the place value here, this is hundredths. And we have 1/100th. So we would write this as 1/100th. Okay. The next one, we have a 0. This is tenths. And there's no tenths. So we just say no tenths or 0 tenths. Normally we just wouldn't say anything. There's nothing there. Doesn't exist, right? This column here is tens. So we have 6 tens. So the value of it would be 60. This one right here, this is thousands. We have 9 thousands. And the value is 9,000. Okay. And last but not least, we have 8 here in the ones column. So we would technically say 8 ones, or you can just say 8. Write the numbers in the place value chart. So let's look at this first one over here, 10.6. So if we're going to write 10.6, we know that the number's 10. So 10.6. That's done. It's probably easiest if you look at what's closest to the decimal. So you can place it in a chart in an easier way. So 6.02, 10.58, and this one is 6.2. And then it says order the numbers from greatest to least. So the biggest numbers clearly here are 10.6 and 10.58. So both of them are tens, as you can see here. They're both 10. So the next digit that matters would be the tenths column. And in this case, 6 is bigger than 5. It doesn't matter what numbers come after here. The largest number here is 10.6. So cross that out, followed by 10.58. Cross that out. And now we have 6.02 and 6.2. Both start with a 6, so we're good. So we look at the digit following the decimal. This is a 0, this is a 2. This number is larger. So 6.2 and 6.02. And I just realized that it says least to greatest, and I did greatest to least. So let me just correct my mistake by changing the question. There you go. There's always a solution. Our 9th slide asks us, where should I place the decimal point so the 5 has a place value of 5/100ths? So this decimal should go over here, because that would make this tenths, and it would make this hundredths. If you were to put the decimal at the end of it, say right around here, this would be tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So it does not meet the criteria. So let's look at 1020. Where should I place the decimal point to make the 2 have a value of tenths? Well, we know the tenths comes right after the decimal. So there is where we would put the decimal point. So this would be tenths right now. And this is what the question was asking, 2/10. Okay. Slide 10, similar to slide 9, asks us, where should I place the decimal point to make 9 have a value of 90? Well, basically that means you want the 9 to be tens, the 0 would be ones, this would be tenths. So you would have to put the decimal there. And the final part on slide 10 says, where should I place the decimal point to make the 4 have a place value of 400? So this has to be hundreds. So let's write that down, hundreds. That means this guy here is thousands. Right next to hundreds is tens. And next to tens is ones. And that would leave the last one as tenths. So the decimal point would go right here. Okay, so to me, it doesn't matter in which order you identify your place value. As long as you know the order, we're good. And our 11th and final slide asks us to identify the place value and value of the underlying digit. Write the value as a number and in words. So very similar to what we did before. So this place value here would be thousandths. And as a decimal, it would be 0.009. As a fraction, it would be 9 over 1,000. And we would say 9 thousandths. Make sure you put the THS at the end, okay? Let's look at B. So here is the underlying value. So we know that this is hundredths. And if you have your place value chart, you can definitely use it. So we have 4 hundredths. That would be 4 over 100, 0.04. And we would call it 4 hundredths. And last but not least, perfect way to end with a 0, of course, tenths. 0 over 10, 0.000 tenths. Okay, so there you go. That's it for this lesson. Go back and rewatch anything that may have been a little confusing. Don't be afraid to pause the video. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.